Good evening, class. We're glad for all of you who are joining us by internet tonight, and we're grateful that you are taking this time out to study with us. Certainly happy for all of you sitting in front of me. We are on page 9 of 40, number 40 notes. We are still on the tribe of Manasseh, and we are looking at note 49. And we have already come to the conclusion with all of our study that the tribe of Manasseh is predominantly found in the United States of America. And the tribe of Manasseh has given America its character, some of its national characteristics. And so I want to start on note 49, the Great Seal of the United States of America. And when we look at this, we will see that it indicates ancestry from Jacob, Israel, Joseph, and Manasseh. You're going to see something right away, and that is the number 13 is prominent throughout the seal, as are the phrases on the seal, what we're going to talk about. Now, technically, we talk about 12 tribes of Israel, but how many are there really?
13.
13. Because Joseph, 2 sons were adopted by Jacob, Israel, and he said, they're mine. And therefore, each son, they didn't receive a half tribe, each son received a full tribe. And then if you add in the tribe of Levi, you have 13 tribes. So 13 is very prominent. And so, and the reason why the land allotment was 12 when they got into the land was because the tribe of Levi, which was the priestly tribe, was then scattered, and there were Levitical cities within the land allotments of all the other tribes. So I want us to look at the Great Seal. Now, what is called the obverse is what is the eagle. We're looking at that, and I will tell you that the reverse was never put on the back of the seal. So there's only the obverse. There is a reverse, and it is there, but it never was actually put onto the seal. So what we see is the supporter of the shield is a bald eagle with its wings outstretched. And that basically is the way you would see an eagle in heraldry. If you're looking at any tribal heraldry, the wings would be spread out. Now, from the eagle's perspective, in other words, if you're looking out from the eagle, it holds a bundle of 13 arrows in its left talon and an olive branch in its right talon. Okay? And the olive branch is usually depicted, here again, 13 leaves and 13 olives. So we're seeing this repeat in 13:13. In its beak, the eagle clutches a scroll with the motto, E pluribus unum, out of many, one. And understand, if you look back to 13 tribes, there were 13 tribes, but they were one Israel. The beauty of that even is in prophetic scripture. In Ezekiel it says what? Take Judah, take Israel. 2 sticks, one representing Judah, one representing Israel. What's going to happen? They're going to come together as one. Over its head, there appears what's called a glory. It almost looks like another seal. And it has 13 mullets or stars. 13 stars. above the eagle's head on a blue field. Now, we know that the recurring number, as it is on the Great Seal of the United States of America, stands for the 13 original states. Have you ever wondered why, when this nation became a nation, there were 13? Not 14, not 12, not 11, 13. And I've said this before, the United States of America is the only nation, other than the nation of Israel, that was ever established upon a covenant with God. The arrows and olive branch together symbolizes that the United States has a strong desire for peace, but will always be ready for war. And we kind of need to kind of ratchet it up a little bit right now. Because the bottom line is, sad to say, the United States of America is not ready for any military action at this point. We are not. Kind of interesting because the eagle has its head turned towards the olive branch. And that symbolizes a preference for peace. The primary explanation of the symbolism of the Great Seal was given by Charles Thomson. And the colors on the seal, white signifies purity and innocence. Red, hardiness and valor. And blue, the color of the chief of the seal, signifies vigilance, perseverance, and justice. Interestingly enough, the olive branch and the arrows denote the power of peace and war. And those are vested exclusively in the Congress of the United States. In other words, understand, even after Pearl Harbor, it was Congress that had to declare war. And that's been an issue in recent times, but it is vested, and the Constitution makes it very clear it's vested in Congress. The constellation denotes a new state taking its place and rank among other sovereign powers. Okay? So that constellation above says, these 13 are now among all the others. Okay, now stars have a meaning. Remember Abraham? He talked about saying, God talked about saying, but he also said something else. He said to Abraham, he said, because Abraham, he knew God had promised him, so well, how will I know? And he was always supposed to. And God said to him, Abraham, can you count the stars? Look up. And I've said, when you are in the Sinai desert, and I will be honest with you, I have never seen a sky with stars like I saw in the Sinai desert when we were climbing Mount Sinai in Egypt. And some of you were with me, and you know what I'm talking. It's like I can't even explain it, because there's nothing to block them out, and all you see is this vast sky with, it seemed like a million stars, and they're clear, and you saw it all the way up. That was what Abraham saw when God said to him, he said, look up, Abraham. Can you count the stars? He said, your descendants will be as the stars in the sky. And so then the Great Seal of the United States has this 13 stars saying they're taking their place as a part of that. And I would say it also stands as those stars represent a part of the stars of Abraham's descendants. that where you have the 13 bars on the chest of the eagle, that's called the escutcheon. It's worn on the breast of an American eagle without any other supporters. That's it. It's just, usually you'll see something worn that's got something supporting it. No, there's nothing supporting it other than it's on no other supporters. To denote that the United States of America must rely on its own virtue. Oh, escutcheon, ESCUTCHEON. ESCUTCHEON. And that's what the eagle is wearing on its breast.
Did you say F or S?
What?
For the second letter, is that an
Oh,
F or
it's
an S?
ES.
S is in
Yeah,
Sam?
ES as in Sam. ES. I'm from southeastern Ohio. I talk funny. ESCUTCHEON.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Now, the obverse. Let me ask you a question right now. As you look at the obverse, and I make a statement to you, and I said, there's a connection to Joseph. Right away, what do you see? Pyramid. And that reminds you of Egypt. Okay. Now, the 1782 resolution adopting the seal blazons the image on the reverse as a pyramid. And by the way, that pyramid is unfinished. If you look at it, you'll see it's not finished. Meaning that the plan isn't finished yet. In the zenith, there is an eye in a triangle. It's the eye, and it's surrounded by another, what is called a glory, which is kind of looks like a mini seal. And the pyramid is conventionally shown as consisting of, guess what? 13 courses, 13 layers. Again, you see the repeat of the 13. And inscribed on the base in Roman numerals is 1776. Now here's what's interesting. The Constitution of the United States was not adopted in 1776. That's when we declared our independence. So it's the year of the United States Declaration of Independence. Now, and where the top of the pyramid should be, we see what is called the Eye of Providence. And it was said that God has ordained the establishment of this country, and he is pleased with the establishment. He favored us in the establishment of this country. And then you have two mottos. Annuit Keptis signifies Providence has approved of our undertakings. Providence meaning who? God. God has approved of our undertakings, and that's why I say there are only two nations that claim to have been established with a covenant with God: the United States of America and Israel. And then you will see underneath the period is Novus Ordo Seclorum. And that was freely taken from the Latin of Virgil. And it means for a new order of the ages. Now here's what I want you to kind of think in. A new order for the ages. So in other words, when this nation was established, God smiled on it. God approved of it, and said, "This is this order." And now, what are we hearing today in our society? We need a new world order. We need a new world order, and it is a world order. And it doesn't matter about your order. Your order that was approved by God needs to be changed so it comes into the new world, global order. But our seal says something different. It says that this world order that was established here, God approved of it. Okay, any questions about Joseph, some of the things there you may want to, there are other things, I've just dealt with this seal. You can get your dollar bill out and you can see some other things also that actually harken back to Joseph. Okay, let's look at 1 Chronicles 5:26. 1 Chronicles 5:26. So the God of Israel stirred up the spirit of Pul, king of Assyria, okay, that is Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, and he carried the Reubenites, okay, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh into captivity. Now remember, where were Reuben, Gad, and a half of the tribe of Manasseh located? In their land allotment.
Yeah.
They were located on the east of the Jordan River. Okay. The other tribes were on the west. And so Tiglath-Pileser carried them into captivity. And on this one, you can see it on this map. And he carried them, and he took them to Hala. And I know it's really kind of hard to see on this map, but at the southern end of the Caspian Sea, you have Hala, Habor, and Har. And that's where he took them. So when they were taken from Israel, okay, over here, he took them all the way over to Hara, Habor, and Hala. So they went from here, Samaria, all the way over around the southern edge of the Caspian Sea. So what we see then is that the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh on the east side of the Jordan were the first, and there's the key, they were the first tribes to be exiled. The first. They were the first tribes to be exiled. So, in other words, when these 2.5 tribes are exiled, the other tribes in the northern kingdom of Israel had not yet been, Samaria had not yet fallen, and they had not yet been exiled. So while one finds descendants of all 13 Israelite tribes in the United States, there are descendants of all 13 tribes in the United States, the attributes of Manasseh are most dominant in the United States. Whole areas and family groups evacuated certain portions of Germany, different times. And they moved in large groups to America. And it was an ethnic movement out of Germany, motivated more by a migrating instinct. In other words, something they just did. And so as they began moving west, when they were able to do that, they just kept moving and moving. And it really wasn't economic factors. It was just, we're on the move. And they just kind of had a wanderlust. Move, keep migrating. And the descendants of Israelites among the Germans, and it's a very key, moved out of Germany to other places. So the majority of the Israelites who had at some point migrated and kind of were in Germany for a period of time, they didn't stay there. And they migrated to other places, especially the United States. And William Z. Ripley writes in The Races of Europe that the people from Germany who migrated to America were on the whole of different stock from those who stayed behind. Which says something. There was some division there. Among the immigrants to the United States from Germany, there was relatively little Jewishness, and despite the fact that in Germany at that time, hatred toward Jews was deeply entrenched. They were Israelite, but they were not of the tribe of Judah. So what do you know? They're from other tribes. Yes.
I missed that one. The whole of what?
Of different. Yes, different. D-I-F-F-E-R-E-N-T. Different stock from those who stayed behind. The ones who migrated to the United States. The groups who migrated to the United States from Germany had not always allowed themselves to be affected by the prevailing trends. In other words, they were different. Because what do we know about what happened in Germany? Well, there was a great deal of hatred toward the Jewish people. But the ones who migrated from Germany to the United States had always been different, had not gone along with that. And I will tell you later when we look at some other tribes, you'll find out that many of those that were different, who still stayed, were those who protected and rescued Jewish people. Very interesting. Now, a similar pattern has been noticed with the Marranos. Oh, I'm sorry. They had always been different. They had always. So there was always a difference there. Let me ask you this. Why do you think they were always different than other people in Germany? It's because they were of Israelite origin. They were their brethren. They may have forgotten their identity, but there's something in the DNA. Remember, it's in your DNA. And so they were always different. They weren't like the others. And now a similar pattern has been noticed with the Marranos of Spain. And I would put out to the side of that Iberia, because understand that area there, we know that there were people, particularly from the tribe of Judah, even before the Exodus, that went into the area of Iberia. I remember my mother telling me a story that her great aunt told her, explaining my grandmother on my mother's side. It was her aunt, my mother's great aunt, telling about coming from that area. They had come from that area and hinted at something about forced conversion, which explains a whole lot to me, because my great-grandmother, totally unchurched, no religion whatsoever. And I'm thinking, where did that come from? I mean, how do you just, then when my mother began saying, she said, great aunt so-and-so told me these stories that was in the history on that side. And explained a great deal. Okay, if our ancestors came because they were forced into a conversion situation, and it was pretty not great when we got here. So, but what's interesting is God knows who are His. And my father had the joy of leading my great grandmother to Jesus. And I think of, even as a little child, I remember she called my father on the phone and she said, I just read something in the Bible and I need to talk to you right now. And my father's name was Kenneth and everybody called him Kenny. And she said, Kenny, I need to talk to you right now, right now. I need to talk to you. I saw this and this needs to be done. So my father drove across town and he said, Grandma, what is it? She said, I just read in the Bible that says you're to repent and be baptized. I need to be baptized. I've repented. I've done that. I need to be baptized. And she said, I got to get baptized. I got to get baptized. Do you understand? God knows where we are. We're not lost to him. She wasn't lost to him.
No.
We're not lost to him. I remember, and my dad came back, he was just beaming. He said, well, I know what it was all about. Because we thought, why she needs him right now? I mean, and I saw her as she would read the Word of God and she'd see things in the Word and she said, why? She said, I've been going to this place and she said, they don't do communion. But she said, the Bible says that we need to take communion. Just little things like this. Listen, you can trust the Lord. He'll take care of it. But so many of their descendants went to certain areas in South America. Some did come to North America. But many Marranos ended up in South America. And it has been estimated that as many as 25% of all Spanish colonists in Mexico were Marranos, who are Israelite, Jewish-based. Their DNA is Israelite or Jewish. And they were forced Christian converts, forced. And they were of Jewish or Israelite origin.
They were forced what?
Forced converts. Forced converts.
Oh, converts.
Now, it's kind of interesting because Spanish names of Marranos in Spain are now rare names. Spanish names of Marranos are now rare in Spain. You don't see many names, Marrano names, in present-day Spain. However, they're very common in Mexico and the United States. And there is a similar pattern is seen among Italians who migrate to the United States. And understand they're still in that same general area, right? Remember I said borders are often fluid? For example, a real good example of that would be the name Isaacs. Kind of interesting, isn't it? There are Italians named Isaacs. Think about that. Yes.
What's before in the United States? A similar pattern is seen as
In Mexico.
Oh,
So
Mexico.
you have Marrano names in Mexico. Kind of interesting. And you begin to see these names, and we would recognize them as Italian. Sometimes even Greek, again, because you're talking about that same general area. And what happens is, that's kind of interesting because somewhere along the line there was some Israelite heritage, and they might have been forced into conversion to survive, but their names were attached. It's kind of very interesting. And you can, offhand, there are several, I was doing this, I thought of a great many Italian names that basically, you would look at them and think, well, they should be Israelite or they should be this, but they aren't. They're Italian. Except that behind that Italian name, there's an ancestry. I will tell you, Lombardi. How many remember we were looking at one of the tribes and we said Lombardi? We recognize it in this church as Italian, Italian, Italian. But guess what? There was something behind that name, remember? Just saying. Now I want to summarize the descendants of Manasseh. Now again, let me just say to you sitting in front of me and to those at home, I do not expect you to rattle off these names. I'm giving them to you for two reasons. Number one, that you can see how these clans have spread out, number one. And number two, so that if you want to do some study on your own, you've got some names, clan names here, of people who are in the tribe of Manasseh that obviously ended up predominantly in the United States, that you can go and search on your own if you want to, and you've got the names and you can do it. Maybe you're more interested in a certain clan, okay? And you've got then this you can take and do that with. So the descendants of Manasseh, I first want to look at Joseph, because there are descendants who basically, and the reason why I say this to you is remember that Jacob Israel said something to Joseph. I think sometimes we miss it. But he said to him, these two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, are mine. I am adopting them as if they were my own sons, and they will each have a full tribal inheritance. And then he made a statement to Joseph. And he said, any sons you have after these two are yours. And they will be called, they'll be considered in my name. They'll be considered that, but they're yours. But they're still descendants, okay, of Jacob Israel. So they'll be my descendants, but they'll be yours. So we need to look at some people groups who are descended from Joseph. And these people are, and you know that what we see as Joseph, and that obviously is an English name, because it would be Yosef with a Y, Yosef, okay. So the Yasubi peoples, this was a people group. The Yusub Gali people in the Zagros Mountains east of Mesopotamia. So we'll look at them, see where Mesopotamia is, where they're far east. So you had that. Another group, another people group is the Aspioi, because anytime you see ASP at a heading, a people group, that points back to Joseph. And again, that would be just a way as language changes.
That's Joseph?
Aspioi would be another form of Joseph. They are found in, and the blank there is Afghanistan. Afghanistan. Again, what is so interesting is we've got descendants of brothers wanting to fight one another. They don't even realize their family. So the Aspioi are found in Afghanistan. Then you have the Yusufzi, also in Afghanistan. The Asperkari, and they are found east of the Caspian Sea. So they would be found in that area east of the Caspian Sea. Then you have the Aspasi. Now, I will tell you, they're found in Khwarezmia, east of the Caspian Sea. And that is the area on this map, you all have this map, called Bactria. That's where the Aspasi were found. And then you had the Usapetes, and they were in Germany for some time. So that they were descendants of Joseph, okay, who were obviously descendants of Jacob Israel. And they were in Germany for some time. But remember what I said about these people? They kept migrating. You had the Swathi Suabi. And they're people groups. They are found in Holland, and Switzerland. And then you have the Subi and the Swabi, and they're found east of Scythia. So, again on your map, this is Scythia. They'd be found over here, probably a little bit above this area here. So those are descendants of Joseph, who were not descendants necessarily of Ephraim and Manasseh, but we need to know that Joseph had descendants. They're still considered, according to what Jacob Israel said, they are still considered Israelites. Because he said, they'll be called by my name. They'll be, in other words, they'll also be Israel, which is kind of interesting. Now, with Manasseh, then you have Manasseh. And under Manasseh, you had Manus. Germany then moved to Gaul, France, and Britain. So they, what were you saying? What I said, they kept moving. They had this moving. Then you have the Massagetae. And on this map, you can see where the Massagetae were. And the reason is some people stayed there, developed there, had children and children and children there. And the Massagetae then kind of stayed in the general area where they were exiled to. And that was the Goths.
Caspian Sea?
East of the Caspian Sea. East of the Caspian Sea. And they were also a clan of Goths. Now I want to look at the clans of Manasseh. These basically are. So the clans of Manasseh arise out of Manasseh's sons. Okay? Because Manasseh had sons, and each one of his sons would then have sons, and from that you'd get clans. I want, again, I'm not expecting you to rattle off all these names of clans, but what I want you to realize when you look to where they went, they're in many places, and many of the people living in these places don't know who they are. Because if they knew who they are, they might act a little bit differently. So you had the son Machir. So you had Mariconda, Maruka, and Marijoy, and these were all east of the Caspian Sea. Then you had another son of Machir, Makron, and though that people group is found in southern Iran. Which makes it very interesting when they stand up and say, we're going to wipe Israel off the face of the map. Okay. Maybe you need to take a DNA test. Thirdly, there's the Scotti Marika, and these were the Mercians in Scythia, again, east of the Caspian Sea. Then you had Mercia Meringus, and they were among the Goths, and here's the interesting one, and Anglo-Saxons. ANGLO-SAXONS. And fifthly, Americans. Because America means land of Machir. Land of Machir. For 5. Land of Machir, M-A-C-H-I-R, because Machir was a son of Manasseh. And technically, no matter, even though we get it from Amerigo Vespucci, or Amerigo Vespucci, however you want to pronounce it, it comes from Machir, Manasseh. So, therefore, America actually means land of Machir. Saxons, S-A-X-O-N-S, it's Anglo-Saxon. Okay, any questions? Any questions on Machir? Okay, he also had another son called Gilead. And from his son Gilead would come the Gaulotai in Gaul or France. And then you would have the Galadi and Galadon in Wales. Like there's Wales. And you would have the Caledonians, again, Caledonians out of Scotland. There in Scotland. Now what I want you to see, Wales and Scotland, Anglo-Saxons, England. So now are you seeing how they began to move, how the tribe of Manasseh migrated? How many know there are many people living in the United States of America who have Welsh ancestry? We had a lady out, she had Mary's Flower Shop in Cambridge, Ohio. She was from Wales. I know because they'd have her sing solos in church. And she sang them very Welsh-like. And she talked. She still had that very Welsh brogue when you'd go into her flower shop. I liked to go in just to hear her talk. We would take her home from church, and I'd always want to go with my dad to take her home from church because I loved to hear her talk. People from Scotland, right? Scotland. Anybody sitting in front of me have any Scotch? Okay, so again, came here. But your Scotch ancestry came from Manasseh's son Gilead. Then you had Helek. He had another son, Helek. And this is where the Helucones from Germany come. And they were in Germany, and then remember, members of Manasseh had a tendency to go out of Germany and then to Britain. So they were in Germany first, and then they went to Britain. And then the Calucones, Germany, and then to Western countries. Whether that was Western Europe, the United States of America, they left. They didn't stay there. Manasseh also had another son, Asriel, and those gave birth to the Isari people in the mountain regions of Scythia, okay, mountain regions of Scythia, north of the Caspian Sea. And that was a place of dwelling of the Angles, Saxons, and Frisians. It also, his clan also gave rise to the Aorsi people, West Scythia, so that would be over in this area as they begin to move. And they moved from this area into Scandinavia. So West Scythia to Scandinavia. And then, guess what? They moved to Surrey in England. So they, again, on the move, always migrating, because why? That's what God said he would do. He'd keep moving them. Another son was Shechem, or Sechem. And these were the Simbi people, East Scythia. And then, some of you will remember this from some of our studies of the other tribes, the Sigambri or the Sicambri. Now, they had a tendency for a long time to stay in East Scythia. And so there you would have Afghanistan, okay? So these people, the Sicambri people, were in Afghanistan and Bactria. And here's Bactria, again, east of, kind of southeast of the Caspian Sea. And they went from there to Germany to Gaul. So Germany to France. Any questions? Okay, so what do we see them doing? We keep seeing them moving west, moving west, moving west. Then you had the son Shemitah. And then, strangely enough, you get a people group called the Sumboi Agaloi. And they were a branch of Angles. Now, here's where you're going to hear some of what I've said before. You're going to pick them up right away. Then you have the Sumboi Langobardi. And they were a branch of the Lombards. Because they're moving. And then you have the Semites. They were ancestor of Gauls. And then you had Sindag, Scandinavian ancestral hero. So in other words, in Scandinavia, in their history, they have this hero called Samdog, who just happens to be a branch of the son of Manasseh, Shemitah. Then you had Hefer, another son. And Hefer gave rise to the clan of Hoferingus, who were Middle Saxons in England. So you're seeing how the tribe of Manasseh spread. And then you had Jezer, Iezer, or yeah, which gave rise to the Agazar people. And so here's what's very interesting. The Agathyrsi became Khazars who converted to Judaism. I want to stop here for a minute because here's what's happened. I want you to see something. This is the tribe of Manasseh. These are tribes of Manasseh. They're part of Israel, right? Yaakov, Israel, Manasseh, and then Jezer, Iezer, okay? But I want you to see something. They're Israel. They're Israelites. And for some reason, right? We don't know what that reason could be, right? The Agathyrsi became Khazars who converted to Judaism. There had to be some, how many of there had to be some reason, there had to be some drawing. I mean, you just don't have people just automatically out of the clear blue, oh, we'll convert to Judaism. And plus a whole people group. So we're not talking about somebody coming out of a group and saying, okay, I'm going to convert to Judaism. No, this was a whole group, people group, who converted to Judaism. Why? Because there was something. There was some connection there. And then you had the Picts, who were descendants of Jezer, Iezer in Scotland. Now, any questions about what we've covered up to this point? Comments? I hope you're seeing about this migration.
Sister Sharon, on the one when you said they come from the east, the Massagetae, and then they go.
Yeah, the Massagetae, the Massagetae, when they were exiled in this area, and
So they went over to Scythia and over through Saxon,
Yeah,
Britain, and then down in that area.
Yes.
From the Israel. That's what I was
Yes.
trying to figure out. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And there is a group of Massagetae who are very, by the way, they're described as looking very oriental. And when they went into China, they also went east, all the way into the area of China. And the Chinese gave them another name. They gave them a Chinese name. Now, what's unique about Manasseh is that a descendant of Manasseh, because it would follow and understand Judaism in biblical lineage followed patrimony. Okay? But a descendant of Manasseh, Zelophehad, had no male heirs. All he had were daughters. And it was determined that because he had no male heirs, the inheritance would fall to his daughters. So those daughters then became heads of clans, legally heads of clans of Manasseh. So you had Tirzah, or Tirzah, same, by the way, same letter. And so they became the Thirsagetai. And they started, the Thirsagetai started in Scythia, okay, because they were exiled there. And in time they left Scythia and they migrated to, and that's not migrated, that shouldn't be there, that's a typo, to Scandinavia. And another daughter of Zelophehad was Milcah. And Milcah, by the way, means queen. And she gave rise to clans, the Melacerti, the Scythian Caucasus Mountains. Okay, so if you have this map, just to the east of the Black Sea, that's the Caucasus Mountains. So you can see they're already moving some. So they end up then around the Caucasus Mountains. And then you have the Basiloi MLC. It's a royal root of Milcah. Because how many, what you're seeing, some of you remember this, some of you didn't take Hebrew. Some of you may have forgotten this, but remember, Hebrew is a consonant language. Hebrew has no vowels. It was not until around the 400 AD that vowels were added, vowel points, what we call points. They're not really vowels, they're just points. So that you could pronounce it, because otherwise, let me ask you this. If there were no vowel, you can't pronounce a word unless it has vowels, right? You can't. So what happened is Hebrew was a consonant language, and it happens to be, remember, 3 consonants is the root of every Hebrew word. So you couldn't pronounce it. So how would you know how to pronounce a certain word? How it was passed down orally? Well, they said, well, eventually we're going to get to a point that, okay, if your parent passed on a pronunciation in a certain way, and your parent passed on a pronunciation in a certain way, and your parent passed on what are you going to get? You may get different pronunciations, which we're already coming across now in the clans. So the Masoretes decided we've got to do this. We've got to add vowel points so that you can pronounce it. So when you read the Hebrew word, everybody will be pronouncing it the same way. And some of you who took Hebrew are saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. But it is a consonant language. So Milcah is really MLC or MLCH, okay? So Basiloi MLC, Basiloi Milcah, is a royal root, and that is the royal root of the Khazars in Scandinavia, okay? Because they went there, they eventually went to Scandinavia, and also the royal Scyths, those who stayed in Scythia and arose to royalty. Again, we go back to the Bible. what did God tell Israel?
You're gonna be a blessing and
You will be a blessing, and what? You will be the head and not the tail. Wherever you are, you're going to rise to the top. You're going to rise to royalty. And Milcah's name means queen. So wherever her descendants go, they're going to rise in royalty. That's why when people, and of course some people kind of, they just throw everything together, the tribe of Judah and the tribe of Israel together, and call them all Jews. And yet the term Jew was never ever even used in the Bible until the book of Esther. You know that? That was kind of far along. And of course the term Jew really refers to the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, and a part of Levi that was loyal in, and Benjamin in the southern kingdom of Judah. That's where they got their name, Yehudites. Yehuda, we call it Judea. But that's, and then when Jerusalem fell, then you find that first term of Jew. Because why? Because it was Jerusalem fell and they were taken into captivity. In Babylon, and then later by the Medo-Persian Empire. So then you had Hogla. Why anyone would name their daughter Hogla, but they did. And that Hogla gave rise to the Frankish kings in France. Again, I want you to see what's happening. Royalty, they're rising, right, to become kings. And by the way, through a mother. Then you have Noah, and they gave rise to the Nuri, and they were in Scythia, and they moved to Scandinavia. And then you had the Nervi of Celtic Gaul, or France. So we see where they were kind of ending up, France. We don't know what happened to the descendants of Mala, who was also a daughter of Zelophehad. Maybe someone will find something somewhere. As of right now, I could find nothing on Mala. Okay, I'll do this, then I'll have to stop. Additional clan names of Manasseh from Chronicles. First and 2 Chronicles. You have Sheresh or Serez, and you know that's because Shin and Sin are the same letter, except for the dot. So you have the Serez, the Sarika, again in East Scythia. Then you have Peresh or Perez. And this is kind of interesting, and you should be able to see something. They gave rise to the Parisi people in Gaul or France. How many see a connection right away? What do you see? Paris. And it also in Britain. Then you have the Frisi in Holland and England. Holland, Frisi. And by the way, you know that Pei and Fei are the same they have the same Hebrew sound. The two letters have the same sound, an F sound. So you have the Pharesi, who went to Scandinavia.
Stupid.
What?
I'm sorry. I always have to think how to spell that.
Oh. Scandinavia?
Yeah.
Oh, Scandinavia, and now I'm going to totally confuse you and tell you that in the beginning it was Scandinavia because it was founded by the tribe of Dan. But because Hebrew is a consonant language in spelling, Scandinavia would be spelled the same way Scandinavia is spelled, except for the vowel. Then you had Parsi, or Parthians from east of the Caspian Sea and in Iran. So in additional clans. Now there was a prince of the tribe of Manasseh. Again, prince. Gadi, the son of Susi. And he gave rise to the Suessians of Gaul, or France. So, Gaul, Gaul, it's of course France. Now, these are additional people groups of Manasseh, and I'm going to have to do that next week. Any questions? We will get the additional people groups.
I didn't see.
Did you say where the 13, why there were 13 states?
Yes. It has to do with, like I said, there were only 2 nations who have been established with a covenant with God. One of them was Israel. Well, technically had 13 tribes. And think about this, that the United States didn't declare their independence when there were 8 colonies, didn't declare their independence after there were 16 colonies, but did it when there were 13 colonies. Because how many know we have 50 states right now?
Yeah.
50 states. But when we were established, we had 13 colonies that then became states. And I don't believe that was an accident. I believe that was divine providence. Because we have always mirrored, the United States has always mirrored Israel until now. And that's important because understand our founding fathers had a covenant with God. And in the founding of this nation, our judicial system is based on the law of God. And that's why, thank goodness, he still is there. There's a statue of Moses holding the tablets of the law at the Supreme Court building. And that's why it is so, and I will say this, if you're listening, listen to me. It is absolutely essential that you and I do whatever we can do to stand for our liberties and freedoms that are ensured to us by the Constitution of the United States, no matter what the opposition is. We need to stand for our liberty, our God-given liberties. And by the way, they are God-given. The Declaration of Independence didn't say, well, we decided to do this. No, these are God-given rights, and we must stand for those rights. Don't ever give in, no matter what. So but to answer your question, that's why. I believe with all my heart this was divine providence in the establishment of the United States of America at that time. Okay. So next week we will pick up on the additional peoples of Manasseh, because then you're going to see some interesting things. And then we will begin the tribe of Ephraim. Any questions, comments? How many are finding out that this is much bigger than maybe you thought when you first started looking at this? God's plan. Thank you for joining our class tonight. If you want to send a prayer request, we do pray over those. You can call them in. You can send them in the old-fashioned way. If you want to give in response to the teaching you've received, you may either give through the Joash chest that's here in the classroom, or you may text it online, or you can, again, mail it in, or you can bring it in if you are local and drop it off in the drop box. That's what makes it possible for us to do this every week for you. I would love to hear your comments. I would love to know what this study has meant to you, to find out how awesome God's plan is and how He's working it and bringing it to fruition. We will be looking at you again, same time next week. And so we just want to tell you that we love you, and may the Lord bless you real good.